Are back right here live from Pike's Pub, right here at 455 Second Street Pike. Like always, make sure you like, you subscribe, and you're talking about what's going on in Philadelphia. And speaking of what's going on in Philadelphia, man, I tell you, I bring some awesome guests, and I bring some people that really know what the hell they're talking about. And one thing's for sure, we got to find out what the hell's going on, okay, with the 76ers, okay, because we don't know what the hell is going on. And what right now, what I have live on the line with me right now is my man, Michael KB, the real Michael KB, 76ers reporter and NBA insider for 97.3 ESPN radio. You can follow him at the real Mike KB. Mike, what's going on, man?
Tony, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us, man. Listen, it's so easy. These questions, I usually give you like, what do we want to talk about? But is it that hard? Like, is it that hard? Like, what, Mike, honestly, like with all the off season that we had and everything, did you honestly see anything like this happening?
Definitely not, Tony. I mean, I don't think anyone did really. I think that, with the optimism that built over the offseason, like Sixers fans have a unique ability to, rebound from hurt and disappointment pretty quickly. It's kind of like, reminds me of that scene in Godfather 3 where Al Pacino's like, every time I'm out, they pull me back in. I feel like that's the type of pull that the Sixers have. And after the way last season ended, losing in the first round of the Knicks in a disappointing fashion, it seemed like a lot of people were pretty low on the Sixers, didn't give them a lot of hope moving forward. And then quickly over the offseason, I think with the addition of Paul George and some of the other signings, the extension for Maxey, the extension for Embiid, there was a lot of optimism built back up. And I think people were excited for this season. I think there was hope that this group around Embiid, the roster construction was, going to be good enough to get back toward the top of the Eastern Conference. And it took all of a week, maybe 2 weeks for that optimism to just completely go up in flames to the point that now we, like you said, we don't know what the hell we're watching with this team on a nightly basis. They're at the very bottom of the NBA standings in record and in a lot of meaningful stats like offensive efficiency, defensive rating, things like that. They are near the bottom of the barrel in every, major NBA statistic. So, short answer to your question, I certainly didn't see things going this poorly a month into the season. I don't think a lot of other people in Philadelphia did either.
Yeah, it's been really, really bad. Again, we got live on the Roger React Media Hotline right now. We got the Sixers reporter, NBA insider for 97.3 ESPN Radio, my man, the real Michael KB. You can follow him at the real Mike KB on X. Make sure you follow him. He does a fantastic job. He's always posting, always top of the line. And speaking of top of the line, we were supposed to have the top of the line PG-13, top of the line depth, top of the line roster, top of the line coach. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, like I tune in and I'm happy I didn't renew my tickets. Right? What's that?
Where do you come up when we had top of line coach?
Come on. Hey, for who? The Sixers? Yeah, we're talking Sixers. See, we're talking Sixers right now. We'll be back to Eagles in about 10 minutes. All right, and now I'll get you on for some what? What? We got the bar captain here, Mike. Hold on.
You're good.
Got it straightened out.
I listen.
Ain't nobody. They ain't not doing nothing around.
I hear you.
They're not making moves.
They made a lot of moves, though.
Well, when?
Are you talking about the Sixers?
Yeah.
They made a whole freaking new roster.
Well, we did it.
Right? What the hell's going on?
But they're not. Nobody's performing.
Yo, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Where's the threat? Where's the threat?
They have a whole. Listen, they have a whole new roster, man. Whole new roster. Right? So we don't know what's going on. Listen, the biggest thing is we don't know if we can turn this around. And that's what, Mike, that's what's going to ask you. Like, speak. Well, we'll get there. Hold on. Let me get the mic for a minute. Then I'm going to get you on a mic in about 10 minutes. Hold on. Hold those thoughts. All right. I want that fire, Bri. I want that fire. All right, I got you. So Mike, honestly, like I said, I didn't renew my tickets. I was going to, even was like, look, and I could get down there with the blue coats and stuff like that, but I'm like, man, I don't feel no energy, man. Like I look at this team and everybody on that team, even guys like Caleb Martin, look like all of a sudden he can't shoot. Yeah, guys like Kyle Lowry that are pissed off. Like, it just seems like this is unfixable right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, I can't blame the guys at the bar with you for wanting to talk Eagles instead of Sixers.
All right.
Because
All right.
I think that's most of Philadelphia right now. We got a 9-2 Birds team coming off that great win last night, clicking on all cylinders, and then we got a 3-13 Sixers team that look like they want to go to sleep every time that the game starts. So I don't blame the locals for preferring the Birds talk. But no, I think you nailed it, Tony. And to me, that's been the most concerning part of this season. You know, with Joel in and out of the lineup, Maxey missing games with injury, Paul George missing games with injury, not having an amazing record at this point would be understandable. But to me, it's just the lack of cohesiveness, motivation. Like every night they just come out and they look like they don't know what the hell they're doing on either end of the floor. They don't look like they have the necessary energy, the requisite energy. And in teams in the past, we've seen 2 years ago, I mean, this Sixers team had a winning record when Joel was off the floor. I know people love to hate on Doc Rivers, and it was all the rage in Philly, get Doc out of town. But, this team was a competitive team for years, even when Joel was missing games. And to me, the most concerning thing this year is that they just don't seem to have any fire, any motivation to, go out and represent for the fans. And you're definitely not the only person I've heard from that said that they, didn't re-up their tickets or haven't purchased tickets to games this season specifically, not only because on any given night, you don't know who's going to be out on the floor, which makes it really hard to, want to go to a game if you don't know if the best players are going to be out there. But even if they're not out there and you go, you're not getting the team isn't putting out the energy for the fan base. Like, you can't blame a team if they're shorthanded, missing their best players, and they lose, but at least they're out there, clearly giving it their all. And we're just not seeing that from this team. And to me, that's been the most concerning thing. I think obviously Nick Nurse gets the benefit of the doubt for the time being because of, like we were talking about, all the injuries, all the absences, brand new roster, guys in and out of the lineup. I think some of these, issues were to be expected. But, personally, I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Nick Nurse this year. I don't want to say he's checked out, but there's just no creativity, no imagination in the offense. There's a disconnect in getting the guys motivated to go play. And a lot of these games they're losing, even without their star players. It's not like they're losing games every night to the Celtics. They're playing teams that are also missing guys, or playing teams that don't have the star power that the Sixers have, and I think they should be able to get some of these wins. So to only have 3 wins, only 1 regulation win after 16 games, regardless of who's been out there for the Sixers, I think to me is an indictment on Nick Nurse and an indictment on the rest of the roster.
Listen, man, I could not agree more. And I got Eric, famous unscripted sports show, my man, checking in on YouTube, has Nurse lost the locker room? And I'll say this: what you just said, about Nick Nurse is exactly the way I feel, with the no creativity. And I think my own opinion was, and I was talking about this before, like I'm an eye test guy, and I'm watching these press conferences, and he reminds me of a guy who's just, like you said, kind of checked out. A guy who's saying, you know what? I'm so done. Like, I did not come here for this. I did not come here to be a corporate mouthpiece. I did not come here to deal with the questions about guys like Joel. Is he going to play? Is Paul George going to play? Is this guy going to, like, he doesn't want to deal anything with this. And I feel like, it's not that he lost the locker room, and it's not that, like, will he be fired? I feel like he might just, like, screw it. I'm out, man. Like, I did not sign up for this. Do you get that same vibe?
Yeah, absolutely, I do, Tony, and it's worrisome to me, and it's the vibe that he's been giving out to us media members in the pregame, his pregame availability every night and his postgame availability every night. He seems, and it's been this way since before the season even started, going back to media day, having to consistently answer questions about, quote unquote, the plan for Joel this season, his availability, things like that. And, this is like you said, a kind of a mouthpiece situation. We saw this with Brett Brown, where he was constantly kind of forced to be the guy that's in front of the media and answering questions that, maybe the general manager should be answering, maybe the ownership should be answering, but it's the head coach. And I do get the vibe that, to use your words, that it's not necessarily what he signed up for. I don't know, to answer the question. I don't know if he lost the locker room yet specifically. I do know that the vibes are very low. I've been in the locker room several times this season after games, and there's not the energy, like the positive energy that I think you felt. And I think you see it in guys, even like Tyrese Maxey, who's been known, he wears a smile on his face 24/7. This losing is wearing on him. You could tell by his answers, his responses to things. And I mean, luckily, thank God for Jared McCain, because he's bringing that. He's the only one. He has that energy, the enthusiasm, kind of like the wide-eyed rookie thing. Like, he's clearly enjoying being in the NBA. It's all new to him, where so much of the Sixers roster is veterans that are on the wrong side of 30, that are, in it for one last hurrah to hopefully be able to, ride to a title with other veterans. And I just don't feel like that collective energy and exuberance is there outside of, what McCain brings to the team. So I think there's a lot of things going on. I wouldn't say that Nurse has completely lost the locker room. I would definitely say that there's some bad vibes going on in that locker room that stem from, the situation with Joel all season, missing the games. He's clearly, letting things get to his head, back to the Marcus Hayes situation. And now the recent thing with the snitch in the locker room and the details about the meeting leaking. And he's clearly upset about that because it paints him in, not the best light for a team leader to, I'm sure that he didn't want national media to know that he was getting called out for being constantly late by a fifth-year player like Tyrese Maxey. This is a guy in Joel who's been on the Sixers for over a decade now and has been viewed as the face of the franchise and the leader. So I think there's embarrassment there on Joel's part. I think he's embarrassed that came out. So, I think just from top to bottom, I don't think Nick's done a good job. And I think those vibes have kind of trickled down. And, as losing takes a toll on you. This is a Sixers team that's been used to winning. Obviously, they've been falling short in the playoffs, but that's a separate thing when you're 3-13 in the regular season compared to a team that's been stacking up 50 wins year after year. It's a completely different vibe for this team right now. And to be honest, I don't know. I'm not saying they can't climb out of it, but to be 10 games below 500 at this early point in the season and have all these, things going on behind the scenes and making headlines for all the wrong reasons, it's usually not a recipe for success in the NBA.
It's definitely not, man. It's definitely not. Again, we're talking to Sixers reporter, NBA insider for 97.3 ESPN Radio. It's my man, Michael KB, at the Real Mike KB, live on X. Make sure you give him a follow. He's always up to date with all his Sixers information. He lays it out online, tells it like it is, highly informative. And I'll tell you what, man, I look at this and a lot of people are a little upset, with Paul George. And though what I've said to those people is obviously you haven't followed Paul George's career. If you thought he was going to come in here and be like this savior and a team leader, and that's not who he is. He misses games. He takes games off. He's done that in his entire career. I think it's being highlighted now because I don't think anybody obviously saw that this was going to happen with Joe because, again, there's no transparency with this organization. And what I'll say, too, is, what you said about Tyrese is so true. And it took a fight. This is the guy who, and you remember, well, you might not have even been there, but when he signed that max deal and he just talked about Joe, how I owe this to you, big man. I owe this to you. And for him to come out, that I think that puts even more credibility on what's going on. And, looking at this, they're kind of screwed. I mean, they have a guy that they just gave a max to. He's not going anywhere. All these people that say, oh, let's trade him. You can't. He's untradeable right now. Like, even if you could trade him, you can't because of the NBA collective bargaining agreement. But even if you were able to, what are you going to get for him? Nothing. And that's what scares me, man, that like this could be going down a really bad slope. And I know there was an article or a couple people came out that said, and you'll know this more than me, about, the Sixers were always going to target like a power forward or something like that. They gave themselves that flexibility with contracts like KJ Martin and things of that nature. But I mean, I don't even think that's even going to work. I think it's almost like something's going to come out that says, yeah, we're going to shut Joe down for the season because he's going to have to get a procedure. Do you see something like that arising?
Yeah, Tony. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be shocked if something like that happened. And I think the most unfortunate thing that we're seeing is how quickly the worst case scenario of this plan for the Sixers has unfolded. I think everyone the kind of new, that follows the NBA when you look at the landscape of things. The Sixers went all in this summer on a 34-year-old Paul George who's been playing NBA basketball at a very high level since 2010, who's been playing a lot of playoff games, who has sustained, several serious injuries over the course of his career. And you couple that with a guy in Joel Embiid, who for all, the great things he does on the basketball court, availability has never been a strong suit for him, and injury issues and missing games has been the biggest knock on him. And I think the main concern when you pair two players like that together is, are they going to be able to stay healthy and stay out on the court together? And I think in the Sixers' mind, they were hoping that, maybe they did overpay a little bit, but they would get a year, 2 years out of this combination before a worst case scenario would potentially, present itself. And, I think the clock kind of just sped up here to the point where they're now, these concerns have manifested almost immediately. Paul George gets hurt in the preseason, re-injures the same knee a month into the season. No one knows what the hell is going on with Joel's knee. And a lot of people want to find fault in this situation in different places. The main thing for me is the Sixers, just the way they've communicated it publicly, what's going on with Joel Embiid. And I think so much of that has led to this distrust with the fans and the fines and the suspensions and all this stuff, because they just have not been transparent about what's been going on with the knee. And obviously fans want to know, media members want to know. So there's just a constant array of questions. And the Sixers, as has become a trend with this team, going back basically Joel's entire tenure here, transparency has not been a strong suit. And I think that's really hurt the public perception of the team and Joel specifically this year, because I think people just don't know what the hell's going on and they don't know what to expect on a night to night basis. And to your point of the original question, I don't think anyone, like on any given night, on Wednesday night when their next game here, I think people would be equally surprised if they're like, yeah, Joel's playing this game, or they announce we're shutting Joel down for an extended period of time. No one knows, and it could go in either way, and I feel like people would be equally non-surprised in either way, and that's a problem.
Yeah, man. I'm just so frustrated. I just because I was so excited like that they turned over this roster, and to sit here that me and you were sitting here talking on November 25th already talking about this season could essentially be over, and people like my man E are saying let's tank for Cooper Flag, and we're talking about things like that. It's just it's crazy to me. And I look around the NBA. I mean, even with the Milwaukee Bucks going through some of the issues that they had, and we're not talking about things like this. Like, it's crazy, and it's just another opportunity to show that I watched the Boston Celtics, the opening game of the NBA. I'm continuing to watch Boston play. I watch a lot of NBA games, and I look and I'm going, there's no way. I mean, even Orlando right now, even with Banchero being out, okay, and Franz Wagner just looking like the truth. Even a team like that, like, we can't hang with any of these guys. And I'm like, how can we do this with the payroll that we have and supposedly one of the best players in the world that can't get on the court, man? It's just, I credit you, man. I don't know how you do it covering this team every day, because I would literally be ripping my hair out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely tough, and it's unfortunate that it just seems to be going in such a negative way at this point. And hopefully Joel is able to get back out there, because he, for all the negativity that people want to put on him, this guy has time and time again put his health and his body on the line to try to be out there for this team. And unfortunately, it just has not worked out for him. And at this point, at the wrong side of 30, you don't think he's going to be moving any better moving forward. And like to your point, it's just, they're stuck with him and Paul George now for the next 4 years moving forward. And it's a tough place to be. The only silver lining, we'll circle back to it, is obviously Maxey and now McCain. You have two young guards, potentially like a backcourt of the future, that maybe, with some shrewd moves from the front office in the future, they could kind of pivot to a team in the future that's built off these guys that are perfect for today's NBA with speed and floor spacing, shooting, guys that can play off each other like that, because this rest of the Sixers roster, it's too small when it needs to be big in other areas. It doesn't have the quickness and athleticism that a lot of the young teams have. It just, they just look old and tired and unathletic too much of the time. And unfortunately, with the way this roster is built, there's really no easy fixes. So, I mean, I try to hold on to some optimism, but from the fan base perspective, I definitely see the negative side for sure.
Yeah, man, it is so tough. It is so tough. Again, live and live, we got Sixers reporter, NBA insider for 97.3 ESPN Radio. My man Michael KB, the real Michael KB. Make sure you follow him at the real Mike KB on Twitter or X or whatever the hell we're calling it nowadays. And listen, God doesn't have has to wear. I'm gonna get you out of this one, Mike. Number one, I gotta ask you something, bro. Like, how do you not have your own show? Like, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but like, I've had you on my Sirius show. I've had you on this for over the years, and you're one of the most silky smooth talkers I've heard in the business. And I need more of that on radio, but for some reason I don't hear it, man. What the hell's going on with that?
Hey, I appreciate that, Tony. First of all, silky smooth is a great way to describe it. I haven't heard that one, but I appreciate it, man. And well, that's why I'm always happy to come on with you, man. Anytime I get the opportunity. I used to have a podcast back in the day. I don't know if you remember Sixers Report with my buddy Jeff McMenamin. He used to cover the team. We did a lot of good stuff then, but since then it's whatever the opportunity presents itself, I try to capitalize on it. So that's why I reached out to you immediately. I applaud you with this show. It's nice to have a platform that gives voices an opportunity to get out and talk. So again, I appreciate you having me on, and it's always nice to get to chop it up with you about some Sixers stuff, even when things have been going as poorly as they have so far this season.
Nah, man, listen, man, I greatly appreciate it. And I will say, man, on this week, it's Thanksgiving. I'm obviously thankful for people like you that continue to give me their time and that continue to, I say this all the time, man, the beat reporter, anybody that covers a local team, it is the hardest job in the goddamn world, in the industry. And you guys eat shit. Okay, but you work your ass off, and you're always the guys with the stories, but always the guys getting the least amount of credit. So I love when you guys like this come on and give me your time, and I can open you guys up to a bigger audience. So I'm thankful for that, man. You have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. And as always, I'll be reaching out to you again to get you back on as I start this new venture, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you too. Good luck with the show, and I'll look forward to coming back on in the future, Tony.
Absolutely, my man. Thanks, Mike. And again, there he is right there, the real Michael KB. Give him a follow at the real Mike KB on X. Beat reporter for 97.3 ESPN Radio.